original. Since I startin' on these bitches invisible. Everything I do so typical. Ain't you wondering why these chickens are inquisitive? Started off one day, had me saying things the Hispanic girls say. Hating when we call the shit Spanish girls say. Had me thinking they gon' live the Spanish girl way. Yeah, and I'm just too pretty. Straight up out the womb, up in New York City. Long hair, blue eyes, chains on titties. Paved the way for all these washed up biddies. And I'm not the one gonna have you running back when I am done. Fussing on these petty bitches, White Iverson. That's it, girl, I won. You're just the re-one. BX like Big Pun, and I ain't even back on. That all ain't.
3, 2, 1. What up, everybody? It's your girl Adaloso, just in case you didn't know. So,
what's good, everybody? What's good? It's your boy DJ SJ614, and we are
the New York Dose,
featuring
another week of me on the New York Dose. I am Rell. Bring it on, the ever so talented.
The biracial boy next door, Alex Haynes.
Hey, in the building.
You know, it's so funny that you mentioned that because literally every time I stepped into the hall to take a solo photo, they would be like, "What is he? Is he?" Exposed, niggas. The New York Dose is a weekly podcast run by a team of multicultural millennials bringing you pop culture chit chat, current events, and a dose of New York City.
I'm good. This show is comprised of 3 main sections that are broken up into smaller segments. The main sections are the Subway, Empire State of Mind, and Times Square.
If you hear anything you like, use the hashtag TNYD or mention us at the New York Dose.
Get it together.
He definitely will look up like that. I'm really a sponsor.
I didn't ask that question.
I said, like, oh, you fucking know what it is? He stepped over her, like, is he I fucking love it. So we're gonna dive into our first section of the show. This is the Subway.
Yeah, and this segment is a section that correlates the NYC, New York City trash-ass train line. Ooh. And since we have our guest here, he's gonna ride it with us. So
all right,
we're gonna learn a lot about Alex today.
Yes, we are. And we're gonna start off with the G train. This is the guest train. So Alex, just tell us all about you, who you are, what do you do, what brought you?
So I'm half black, I'm half white, for everybody in the room wondering.
Let's just get that out the way.
My mom's black, my dad's white.
So you're more black than white.
Well, I like to think on the inside that way, yes, but if you look on the outside, most people, if you can tell if somebody grew up around diversity, because they'll look at me and go, "What are you?" Or they'll know. Or if they didn't, they'll go, "Hi, other white person." I'm like, you're not looking at me at all. I was born in Manhattan, and I lived here till I was 6.
What part of Manhattan?
The Upper East Side. I mean, I guess technically you call it's like we lived on 5th Avenue, so
ooh, fancy.
5th Ave between 106 and 107.
Okay,
I think.
nice.
1255 5th Avenue.
Hey.
Learned to ride my bike in Central Park, and then.
Oh, you a New Yorker?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what the fuck I like.
Right.
New Yorkers at the New York Dose.
Hey, okay.
Exactly. But then my little brother was born. My parents were like, we gotta move out of the city, so we moved to Iowa City.
Oh wow, wait.
Yeah. You're about to take it back. Don't take it back. I've been waiting to hear that my whole life.
Oh.
We moved to Iowa City, Iowa. Lived there till I was 11, and then moved to Overland Park, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City, where both my parents grew up. Essentially, I lived 10 minutes from my dad's parents and about 30 minutes from my mom's parents. They both lived in Kansas. Grew up there their whole lives. And
transition.
Yeah. And then I studied at the University of Kansas, studied theater and psychology, double major.
Yes.
You got a double major then.
Yeah, well, my mom was a doctor, so she went to Harvard, and my whole life it wasn't you have to be a doctor, you have to be this. She was like, you're going to Harvard.
Oh shit.
Ooh.
And I was like, I don't want to go. I don't want to do what you did. And yeah, so throughout my college experience, I realized that I wanted to be an actor, despite how poor it might make me. And so after school, I pursued that, and I started an improv group in college, and we performed in Kansas City after we graduated, and I got a couple acting jobs in the theater world in Kansas City, which is actually more bustling than you might think it is.
Okay.
And then I knew I always wanted to move back to New York City the second we left. When I was 6 years old, I didn't know where Iowa was. I was like, okay, but so ever since then I was like, I'm coming back to New York.
Me either. That's why I just Googled, man.
Yeah. I knew where Kansas was at the time because that's where my grandparents lived, and I've been flying back and forth from New York to Kansas since before I was 1. But I was like, I know Manhattan, I know Brooklyn, and I know Kansas.
Yes.
And maybe a little bit of Connecticut and Jersey, but like that's all I knew at the time. But anyway, I always knew I wanted to come back to New York, and of course when I realized I wanted to be an actor, coming from Kansas City, it was like LA, Chicago, or New York. Well, New York. That's where I'm gonna go.
Of course.
So I came back to New York about 8 years ago, February 1st, 2010.
Oh yeah, it's the anniversary.
Yeah. And since then, I've been just like hustling, trying to figure it out, slowly but surely, like building momentum and figuring out what it's like to live in New York as an adult. Realizing that I had become a Midwestern
nerd. Man, that transition living, like, it's so different, like, young New York life and then old New York life is fucking crazy.
Because old New York might be paying bills.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I know why people move away.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So I want to know, what was the moment for you when you realized that you wanted to become an actor? When did that happen?
So I guess between my sophomore year and junior year of college, and I'd been acting since I was in middle school, and I've been doing plays, and I was in drama club, and I chose between track. I was a promising long jumper.
Okay.
I chose between track and theater, and I tried out for the basketball team, never made it. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be an athlete. I'm a little too short for that. But I love doing this thing.
Right.
So I knew I loved it then, but I thought, I grew up middle class, like I want to have a middle class life, and everybody says if you can do anything else other than act, do that. And I was like, I don't know, I'd be like a psychiatrist or something. Like I could do that. I like talking to people. I think that's part of what draws me into acting is sort of understanding the inner workings of why people do things.
Yes.
And so in a way, that's what a psychiatrist does in many ways, and I've always been like the advice giver to my friends, and I've always enjoyed
You're the go-to?
doing that. Yeah, I'm the go-to. If you want to talk, let's talk.
You're the cry on the shoulder? You're the shoulder to cry on?
Cry on my shoulder, I'll give you great advice.
Alright, so I'm gonna follow you on Instagram after this. We're gonna change numbers, and then I'm gonna...
He's about to delete his talk space.
Like, do such talk space, and I have Alex.
Yeah, exactly. From now on. We can talk about rates later.
That's what he thinks. Can I
get a friend this time?
Love it.
We are adults living in New York.
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
So there was some time between my sophomore year of college and my junior year of college, and I was doing this, it was called the Health Careers Pathways Program. And like I said, my mother was a doctor, and she was a pathologist, and one of the things that she did at the University of Kansas is she was the dean of the, please don't let, I'm not gonna say her title correctly, but she was the dean of multicultural affairs, among other things, among being the chair of the pathology department, et cetera, et cetera.
Come on, slay mommy.
No, they couldn't handle the way she slayed.
Hey.
And so there was this program for pre-med students from that university and from many other places to bring diverse people into the world of medicine. And so they had this summer program at the University of Kansas. And I mean, I probably got in because my mom told me about it. And I had to apply like anybody else, but it didn't hurt that, my mom was in charge of the program. And so we had like chemistry classes and all this stuff. And I realized in doing it all that as much as I enjoy the inner workings of the human body, like again, I'm a person, I like to know why things happen, cause and effect type things. I realized over that summer, like meeting with my improv group that I had formed and getting ready for the upcoming season of plays and having friends who were auditioning for commercials and things like that in the Kansas City area, I realized that's what I want to do. Like this will always be here. This, the world of medicine or the world of a quote unquote traditional career path, that will always be there.
Right.
But this other thing is what I want to do, and I have to risk trying.
Yes.
Because I only have one life.
Yes.
And I don't know how long it's gonna last. So I might as well give this a shot. Like, I have supportive parents, and if the world crumbles around me and I gotta move back to Overland Park and live with my folks after trying, then I will. But I gotta try.
May I ask, how old are you?
I will be.
Wait, hold on, wait. Can we guess?
Oh yeah, please
Can
guess.
we guess
Please
first?
tell me.
Yes, I guess 23.
Okay.
28.
And I know.
Yeah. I will be 32 next month.
Get out of here!
No.
Yes, I love
black
it.
don't crack.
Okay, come on now.
No matter how light it is, black
That's
don't.
right. Yes.
Yes.
I wanted to get into about supportive parents because I'm like, okay, you told me your mom is a doctor. Can I ask what your dad does?
Yeah, my dad is an architect.
You see, so these like really like societies like really strong like
Influences.
yeah, influencing and career paths. And how was it like growing up with like that type of role model and like?
It was great. Like my parents, there were a lot of things I've sort of realized as an adult that they did without necessarily showing me they were doing it. That I think really shaped me and really gave me a strong foundation. My mom never took my dad's last name; she kept her maiden name, and they never talked about it. It was never an issue. There was never anything like that. My mom also always made more money than my dad. Pretty much her, like, I would say 90% of her professional working life. And never, that was never an issue, and they were just like a team. And they always worked. I had babysitters, and I would be at after school program, and I just was always in a home of two working parents, where they would come home from work and they would be there, they would be present for us. But also it's like maybe they're gone for a week because they have a work trip, or it was like, this is my job, I take it seriously, but I can also have a family and do that as well. And I never really felt like I didn't get enough of them, or that they were gone too much, that they were workaholics.
Nice work-life balance.
Yeah, especially looking back on it now, I feel like they did a really great job of meeting the demands of their high-pressure jobs. But
which is really hard to do.
Yeah, 100%, especially in New York City.
Yes.
I mean, for the first 5 years of my life, it was just the three of us here in New York, and my mom had just gotten out of med school. My dad was just starting his architectural career, and they were doing it. I remember there was a time when my dad was going back and forth to London for a project, and he would come back and he'd bring me these toffees in a tin, like a typical London phone booth, like the red booth, and on it was a picture of a person coming out of the door, and you'd pop it open, and then there'd be all these toffees in it. He'd get home late, and we'd stay up for him when he's coming home from the airport. And I remember sitting in the room of our apartment, because the living room looked right at the front door. It wasn't a big place at all, and just being like, "Dad's coming home tonight," And so that from.
Are you the only child?
No,
you have a little brother.
I also have a little sister. So I'm the oldest of three.
So you had even though those times you missed them, but you had like siblings who keep you comfortable.
I can remember life before my siblings, but I've had now most of my life with them, which is great.
So Southern New York, Kansas, Iowa, then Kansas. Now you're back in New York. Did your parents follow, or are you?
No. So my dad is still in Kansas City. My mom passed away. It'll be 3 years ago next month. But my dad is still in Kansas City. Although he's going to be interviewing for a job in New York sometime this month. It kind of depends on when they set it up. Both of my siblings, my brother Cody, he's 27. My sister Francesca, we call her Frankie, or F-bomb sometimes.
I like that.
She's 24.
Yeah, so you guys are pretty close.
Yeah, we're pretty close, and they both live in Lawrence, Kansas, where University of Kansas is, which is about 40 minutes ish from my dad in Kansas City. But they come out and visit pretty frequently. But my dad, I feel like, especially now that he's sort of entering this world of not having this person he was married to for,
Right.
I can't remember if they had reached 30 years when my mom passed, but for, basically since he was,
his partner in life.
yeah, since his mid-20s,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's in his 60s, sort of starting over again, and they had both been interested in coming back to New York. My mom had actually had an interview scheduled at the Yale University School of Medicine, or at Yale University, like 2 weeks. 2 weeks after the day that she passed, so like they were talking about it. They were ready to sort of move over here, and because they were young 20-somethings in New York, and they still have friends here. My godparents live here. So while my family and my wife's family are still back in Kansas, they come pretty frequently, and it's not the barrier that it certainly could be, and certainly people